And now we're all about March Madness and the tournament here on Sports Extra. In studio tonight, Luis Ortiz, Zach Tawatari. Guys, brackets filled out?
Ready to go.
All right, that is good to know. And then here at the desk, let's go seniority first. We have Johnny Jones, 7th season at Texas Southern. Good to see you.
It's great seeing you.
And then after completing his first season at HCU, Craig Doty. You guys don't spend much time together, do you?
We played a little preseason game, but I just follow the success of Texas Southern, and we're standing with somebody that's been at his big dance 6 different times now. So.
Man, we are not worthy, Johnny.
Stop.
Come on now. All right, let's start with this general reaction to Houston's place, #1 seed in the Midwest, and then Texas making the field of 68.
Well, couldn't be more excited for Coach Sampson and his crew. Guy should be Coach of the Year. Tremendous job. Players are playing extremely hard for him. They absolutely love him, love his team. They play hard for each other, and they're a team that's going to have to be reckoned with. And again, #1 seed, that's going to be a tough out for anyone.
People talk about coaches getting out. Jay Wright, Roy Williams, Jim Larinaga. Kelvin Sampson, he's got the fountain of youth. Him and Rick Pitino continue to get better and better. It doesn't matter as the dynamics in the game changes and NIL and transfer portal, they continue to showcase that they're some of the most elite coaches, not just in the country today, but of all time. So it'll be fun to follow Houston as they go through this journey.
No doubt. So which #1 seed has the toughest road to San Antonio? We're going to wait for the experts, but let's start with Zach and Luis. Guys.
Well, Luis, I'll start it out. I think it's got to be Duke coming out of the East. Why? Because they may have to play an Oregon or an Arizona team. Oregon beat Alabama earlier this season. Arizona played Duke tough on a neutral site. They've also got BYU and Alabama in that bracket. To get through it, to make it to the Final Four, that's a tall task.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Florida, actually, because they have a very tough bracket, both on the north and the south part of it. And look, also, we're going to be talking about our sleeper team. Well, mine is in the same side of the bracket, so it's going to be a tough one for Florida. Also, you got St. John's, who could potentially be making a bid to be the national champion. So Florida, the Gators, they got it tough.
I think Duke may have the toughest road, given that they may have to face Baylor, Arizona, BYU, and then Alabama to get to San Antonio. Where are you guys with the team that has the roughest or toughest road ahead?
I have to agree. I think Duke may have the toughest road ahead. I think Alabama have a very good basketball team. They have offensive firepower that's second to none. When they can get it going, that's the reason they're where they are. They've been ranked #1 in the country. They're extremely tough. They're a fast basketball team. They're going to be a tough out at the end of the day. So I think that's going to be a tough matchup for Duke if they're able to both advance.
Craig?
Well, I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree with Florida being the toughest route, and that's just because perennial powers and national level coaches that have proven themselves in this tournament are lower seeds in that bracket. You got to see UConn, Kansas, both in that bracket. I think McCasland's done an incredible job as well at Texas Tech. Rick Pitino's team, I don't think anybody can doubt them at this point, working with less NIL than most teams in the Big East, but it doesn't matter. He said he recruited on character, not on NIL. I think maybe a combination of the two, but I think that pod is going to be the most difficult to work their way through to make it to the Final Four.
Having been in the tournament so much, how much does coaching and being there and having that experience play a role, or is it basically about the players at this level?
No, absolutely not. You have to have great coaching. I think you have to be able to put those great guys together, make sure they're playing as a cohesive unit at the end of the day, and there are going to be some moments in the game that the coach is going to have to step up and make some tough decisions, make some defensive adjustments, some things offensively to get a late basket. So coaching plays a big part, but you certainly have to have the guys to be able to go out there on the floor and execute those things that you're discussing.
Everyone loves a good Cinderella story. Everyone loves a sleeper team. They're looking at their brackets, but first, here is the drive of the game. And of course, everyone loves a Cinderella story, a sleeper team. So give me a sleeper which could surprise everyone, and we are starting with Zach and Luis, guys.
Well, as much as I love the Johnnies and as good as their defense looks, as good as Rick Pitino in a Lou Carnesecca sweater, I have got to go with Georgia, and that's because they have wins against St. John's, Kentucky, and Florida. It's the Bulldogs for me.
You mentioned Florida, St. John's. They're in the same bracket that I talked about. The number 1 team having the toughest road to the Final Four, the Gators. Well, guess who else is in that same bracket? We're talking about Maryland. Yes, Maryland is my sleeper. They are a number 4 seed, but listen, they are 11-2 in their last 13 games. They were averaging nearly 40% from three-point range during that span, and also they got Derek Queen, who's a projected lottery draft pick.
All right, so Georgia and Maryland. I know one person on this panel here has some experience with Georgia, but anyhow, sleeper, Cinderella, which way are you guys thinking in terms of a team which could surprise in this tournament?
I think Louisville is one of those teams that people will take, and they look at Louisville. In terms of their conference, didn't get a lot of teams in, but they've done extremely well in their conference against some power schools. Clemson's a good basketball team, very talented. They've won on a nice win streak prior to losing to Duke in the championship game. They're a team that's played quality schedule, extremely tough, playing extremely hard. New coach has done an excellent job there. And I think Louisville's one of those teams that can make noise in the tournament.
Even though Louisville potentially could face Auburn in the second round.
Exactly. That's the great matchup for them. I mean, they've played Duke. I don't think they're going to be really overshadowed by anyone.
Okay.
And I think they'll be ready to compete. So if they can get through that second weekend, some great things can happen for them.
All right, so sleeper, Cinderella. I'm getting a sense, I'm getting a funny look from you. Why are you giving me this funny look?
Well, we're going to go 2 different directions, Jason.
Okay.
Because Cinderella, I define as somebody that's going to win some games, potentially make second weekend, that is a lower seed. So Cinderella, low to mid-major. I have UC San Diego, one of the top defensive teams in the country. They switch 5 ways. They shouldn't be able to get the stops that they do, but they do. Tougher, better than everybody out west in their league. And they went Division I in 2020. So just and I'm a Division II guy, so going from D2 to D1, we're going to support UC San Diego to make second weekend. But the team that I think can make it all the way to the Final Four or beyond, I'm a big proponent and supporter of Dennis Gates at Missouri. Obviously played a big-time schedule going through the SEC. Spun the program completely around, had a great first year, didn't win an SEC game last year, and this year has shown that their team can compete and beat anybody in the country.
I'm going to throw out a sleeper. Well, no, I guess Cinderella, based on your definition. McNeese, you know McNeese well. Is McNeese a team which could make some noise potentially?
I never discount what Will Wade is capable of doing. While their NIL substantially more than everybody else's in the Southland, it's much more than just that, though. It's much more because he can coach ball as well. They have chemistry, they have culture, and they have a lot of toughness to them. And he can coach, and he's been there before.
It'd certainly be my Cinderella.
Well,
McNeese, absolutely. Yeah. Will Wade has done a phenomenal job. His kids are going to compete at a certain level. He's been there. And I can assure you, when his kids get there, they're going to be playing extremely hard. That's what it takes, and so the team's going to have to knock them off. They're a team that could certainly advance, and it's a game that I'll keep a close eye on.
McNeese, of course, in the same conference as HCU. Georgia. You played them earlier this year. Is Georgia a team that you would put in this whatever we're calling this, sleeper and Cinderella?
Well,
more
congratulations
sleeper,
to Mike White. I mean, he's a guy who just left Florida, wound up beating Florida, I think knocking them off toward the end of the season there. He's done an incredible job, what he's been able to do. Young basketball team, talented freshman that's on his basketball team. We did play them early in the year. They rebound the basketball well. They have tremendous scores, good post play, and some great things can happen for them. Love the job that Mike White's done at Georgia.
Back on Sports Extra with our special guest, Johnny Jones from TSU, Craig Doty from HCU. Unfortunately, neither of you are in the tournament. I'm sorry I have to remind you of that fact, but let's review your seasons. What went right? What went wrong? Let's start with you, Johnny.
Tell you, I had a great time coaching the young men in our program this year. I thought they did a fantastic job buying in, had a lot of new guys, and I thought exceptional. When you take a team that led our league in terms of the defensive field goal percentage, that's huge for us. Holding people around 40%, shot the ball particularly well down the stretch. Went through a stretch of injuries. Guys stayed together, which is extremely hard to do at times, and put ourselves in position to get to the tournament. It was 4th seed. I thought we were playing extremely well at the time. Caught a hot Alabama State team in the tournament, knocked down 14 threes. Unfortunately, we didn't execute as well down the stretch, especially around the free throw line area, an area that we were excelling in, around 72, 73 for the season. Went 9 of, I think, 19. That's a recipe for disaster, and especially when you're trying to win. But at the end of the day, love our team. But at the end of the day, we know what the tradition is for TSU basketball. We've been to the tournament 7 out of the last 11 years, 3 out of the last 5, and we know what the expectations are. And when we fall short of that mark, we're certainly disappointed. But those are the things that keeps driving us to do better. And I can't wait and looking forward to next season, and we'll be back.
And Craig, first year, how do you think it went?
Well, we took over a rebuild, and we're very excited about the progress that we were able to make. We had moved the program from 357 in the net to nearly 250 at the end of January. We started off 7-3 in Southland play, tied for second. Margins thin, hit a little bit of an injury bug, just didn't quite finish games. But overall in the season, we moved the win total from 6 wins to 12. The conference wins from 4 to 9. It's the first step in the right direction with more steps to be had.
All right, that's coaching, right? That's all about coaching right there. And now let's talk Final Four picks. We are beginning with Zach and Luis over at the big board. Guys, give us your Final Four.
Tell me, Luis, you go first.
I'm going to go first. All right, well, I've got 2 upsets. We're talking about Auburn not making it. They actually have lost 3 of their last 4 games. And the last time that a team that lost its final 2 games and actually made it to the national title, that was in 2011. So Auburn's going to be out. I'm going to say Michigan State. Also, Florida not going to make it. I'm taking St. John's. And as far as on the other side of the bracket, health is going to be key for both Duke and Houston. As long as they're healthy, I expect the Blue Devils in there and also the Cougs.
All right, I'm also taking Tom Izzo and Michigan State in the South. I've got Florida coming out of the West. Out of the East, I am going to end up going with Duke. I agree. Health going to be an important thing. Yeah. And, of course, I am going to take Houston coming out of the Midwest.
All right, so there you have it. We have 2 Houstons on the board. I will make it 3. I'm going Houston, Alabama in the East, Auburn in the South, and I'm going to go Texas Tech in the West.
Auburn, Texas Tech.
Staying local. I mean, what's safe picks, Jason? Now, I told you before we got on the air, I was not going to be the person to say that Houston wasn't going to make it. So I'm going to be very clear. Houston's making the Final Four, and they're going to win it, okay? I know my market where I'm at. Plus, Calvin Sampson's team won't let you pass the basketball, okay?
Yeah.
They're gonna foul you 45 times, and they're only gonna call 20 of them, okay? So they're good. Boy, they're good, and their offense is as improved as they've been ever. So we want to see them win it. We all do. We're in the market, and we believe in them. But along with them, I have Auburn. I have Alabama, and I'm riding that Dennis Gates train from Missouri.
Wow.
Let's make it to the Final Four.
How about that, huh? All right, Johnny, your turn.
Well, I think Michigan State is going to be certainly a tough out at the end of the day, I think, for Auburn, especially if things don't happen well for Louisville. I think Louisville is going to be certainly a challenge for Auburn early on. You certainly can't pick against Florida, I don't think. I think they're a high-powered offensive team. Rick Pitino does a tremendous job, but I've got to pick Florida.
And that conference, right? I mean, you're coming from the SEC.
Yep, and Duke. Well, they got 14 teams in from the SEC, so they've been battle-tested all year, and the guys, I think they won the conference championship, tournament championship. Duke, I think if Alabama don't knock them off, I think they're the team that's going to be there, and you're absolutely right. Kelvin Sampson in Houston is certainly going to be at the Final Four, and they'll have a chance to cut the nets down.
All right. Will you guys go to the Final Four too?
Absolutely.
Will you go?
We have the Airbnb booked for the whole staff. We'll be in San Antonio, and a lot of conventions. Everything's professional development, though.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I got you.
We keep it professional the whole time. We enjoy that aspect.
All right. Well, then we will all circle back in San Antonio. Craig Doty from HCU, Johnny Jones from Texas Southern. Thanks for joining us tonight on Sports Extra, guys.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.